Hi there. Do you know what really grinds my gears? A lot of things, actually. But more specifically in this video is Lily Orchard's Coffin of Andy and Leyley video. This video lives in my head rent-free. It's one of my top 10 most hated YouTube videos. Lily Orchard, known for having a weird Steven Universe hate boner and just being an awful person in general. I haven't watched a lot of her videos, but this one Coffin of Andy and Leyley video was more than enough for me, because it is so insufferable to watch. Forgive me if this video seems a bit low effort, because I'm reacting to like a 45-minute long YouTube video, and I don't feel like putting much work into it in general, okay? I just need to shit out a quick YouTube video in 3 days, so I'm doing this YouTube commentary video style. And yes, I'm gonna be super crass too, alright? If my parents are watching this, Now, I don't know much about the Coffin of Andy and Leyley itself. Apparently, it's a really divisive game. Fans of the game say that it's very good and well written and shocking, but non-fans of the game say that it's, edgy, stereotypical, like, Tumblr stuff because of its, like, infamous incest ending. I don't know. You know what other thing had a fucked up ending? Sleepaway Camp. And that movie was awesome. But anyways, I don't want to get into the game itself. I just want to make fun of this video.
This video was voted on by patrons and was originally going to be a deep dive into 4 games that all use shock value and refuge and audacity as their primary selling point. However, during the writing of this script, before I committed to recording footage from the intended games, I came across 3 of them already being discussed in a video by Noah Gervais several years ago, and the thought of doing the same thing felt extremely intimidating, especially since I already have a problem with absorbing analysis and jokes from other creators already. Seriously, I owe so many people so many apologies.
I mean, what you just said at the end, that's like completely fine. I get other stuff from other YouTubers as inspiration to make my YouTube videos all the time. Do you think I invented this style of videos? And by the way, the whole thing that you were about to make a whole video about Postal hatred and Postal 2, but didn't because another guy already did it, that's more of a blessing in disguise because of how insufferable you are.
In 1997, developer Running with Scissors released Postal, a gory twin-stick shooter about a guy going absolutely ballistic, believing he has to purge society of degeneracy and ending with him having been hallucinating the entire time. It was a game made specifically to stoke controversy and profit off of it by jumping and waving around for attention going, look at me, look at me, look at me! And it worked. It sold extremely well, doing exactly what it was supposed to do. 6 years later, the developer released a sequel where 90% of the game was spent whining about the fact that his deliberately controversial game had in fact been controversial, stewing in anger and bitterness at the fact that a game he made to get people angry did in fact get people angry. What had first been a masterstroke of marketing brilliance was ultimately turned around onto Vince Desiderio as he made the critical mistake of revealing what a sullen, hate-filled misanthrope he really was.
Now, that is a very gross simplification of the events that happened with the development of Postal 2. Now, I don't know much about what the developer is as a person, but as to her second point that Postal 2 was less successful than Postal 1, no, she's completely wrong. Postal 2 actually did way better than, like, the sequel, despite all of its, like, controversy. Now, I can get behind missing a bunch of, like, key details, too. I don't expect her to go, like, super in-depth like it's a documentary, but missing important details, like, I refuse to believe that she had the time to record, edit, screen record, script this entire video, and didn't have enough time to make a single Google search to see how many copies Postal 2 sold. Either she's doing this on purpose, or she is dumb. And to her calling the developer a misanthrope is an obviously big misuse of a buzzword. It's like some Twitter logic, there's like some early 2000s satanic panic logic right here.
Shock value has always been the lowest and laziest form of art. Shocking people is easy. Walk outside and scream a racial slur at the top of your lungs, and congratulations, you have shocked people. You have offended their delicate sensibilities and demonstrated that you are a brave and bold artistic genius. For about 5 minutes before you notice that people aren't gasping in agog horror. They're looking at you with dispassionate contempt. Nobody gasps, nobody screams, maybe somebody goes, you're ignorant, and then records you and puts you on TikTok later. But you didn't get the reaction you were hoping for. Now faced with the realization that you have embarrassed yourself in public and completely and utterly told on yourself, you rush to Twitter to start hammering your keyboard about how the woke mob isn't ready for your noble addition to the art of humiliating yourself in public, and how you were cancelled and silenced by dispassionate ridicule. And for the sake of being inclusive, replace woke mob with your bitchy coping snarl word of choice.
Now, as you can see here, it doesn't take long for a Lily Orchard video for her to go absolutely feral in this video with her imaginary fandom that she thinks that these kind of games appeal to, which is a nasty habit that she has throughout this entire video. This can't be applicable if you're talking about people like Matt Walsh, but her making this entire skit and let alone scenario is like some kind of petty high school bully stuff, which seems to be added in as a product from her unhinged hatred towards edgelords on the internet.
The first Postal was a genuinely shocking video game, a game where you just slaughter innocent people in a time before BioWare admitted half their entire gameplay philosophy, in a time before murder hoboing became a popular way to play D&D. The first Postal is actually an interesting novelty, playing as a psychopathic killer on a rampage until the very end of that rampage at either a funeral or an elementary school, depending on the version, where it turns out they're in solitary confinement and were hallucinating the entire time. The entire game is tasteless from the word go, but if you stick with it, you'll end up being pleasantly surprised. I wouldn't call it a good game, but the trick at the end was certainly clever. Unfortunately, the sequels after this point all lead into the laziest type of shock comedy imaginable, and the entire game feels like a bitter swipe at everyone who ever looked at the creator funny, told through the vector of a bad episode of South Park. Sorry, that was redundant. I meant to say told through the vector of an episode of South Park. Any small value from the first game, at least from an anthropological standpoint, is pissed away as over the next 18 years, the developer would grow increasingly embittered by their lack of success compared to their peers at the time and continually pass the blame on everything but themselves.
If you were half awake watching this video, you wouldn't know that in that segment, Lily Orchard was actually secretly praising Postal 1 without actually defending it, because since it's the first installment, it's somehow better. But to further sell her narrative, she then brings up Postal 2 and makes up a fake story that she probably made up herself and wouldn't be that surprising, and trying to make a Postal 2 seem like as bad as a game as possible, and the developer itself.
We've now reached the point where Netflix is making sexy thirst trap drama shows about cannibal serial killers, and people are making TikTok videos about how unfazed they were and how they wished it had more gore so they could show off what a big boy they are.
So what you just said about Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, would imply that that Netflix biopic series was solely made to appeal to those TikTok weirdos that are trying to make thirst traps. But personally for me, I feel like that's a byproduct, since I don't think like a professional director with like tons of script writers and like script supervisors and all other kinds of staff members would appeal just to that demographic. This video was made 2 years ago, right? If you really had a problem with that, you could have looked at the billions of other exploitative Netflix crime documentaries. Now, making a series like this already has tons of other complications, like, what if it's respectful? Is it being insensitive? What about the victims of the real-world tragedies? Will they like it, or will they not? Will it get an X rating? But she seems to be more concerned about that TikTokers are making thirst trap edits of Jeffrey Dahmer himself in that Netflix biopic series. But to be fair, those TikTok edits, she does have a point with that, because it does glorify real-world violence, so at least there's that.
Last month, the internet positively blew up about the Coffin of Andy and Leyley, a visual novel that boasts about the fact that it's breaking 6 different taboos at once. And to those of you who had to check your watches to make sure you hadn't just jumped back in time about 20 years, I assure you that you are still very much in the present day. This game blew right the fuck up. Steam doesn't hand out those overwhelmingly positive ratings for nothing, or maybe it does because I checked out the ratings and they were all shit like, the mom's hot. Ted Kaczynski was right. That's the human bomber for those of you unaware. Make choices that change the course of the story. Be like, sex, not sex, homicide. My brother gifted me this. Receive for free. Okay, I won't lie, that got a laugh out of me. Mentally deranged, envious, aggressive, manipulative, wife material. God forbid women have fun. Pros. A compelling story about two extremely twisted and horrifically relatable people. Sister wife. Every positive review was either a joke or complaining about Twitter, and I saw maybe one person claim that the game had any artistic merit towards it. So for the first time in years, somebody actually played the shock jock grift and won. Because for every 4 people who go, can you believe this shit, there's one who goes, it might be fun. But if you're familiar with this grift, you already know that once you're in there won't actually be anything of merit to it. The blurb goes, brother and sister practice cannibalism after witnessing a botched satanic ritual. Immediately, it's giving the game away. 2 siblings violating the worst taboo on the planet? Yeah, I'm sure they'll leave the second and third worst completely where they are. Definitely positive on that, no doubt about it. The thing is, that's gonna continue being Schrodinger's sleaze bag until someone with critical thinking skills and no gag reflex actually puts on the rubber gloves and sifts through the sludge. No, I'm kidding. We open on discordant music while we watch a boy being bullied by his younger sister into doing something unmentioned, while the words suffer or fuck keeps echoing in the background. But then the music cuts.
On a side note, I just realized that in the video, Lily Orchard did something with her Postal 2 section. Sure, she was willing to talk a little bit about Postal 1, but for Postal 2, mostly she just tries to make the developer of the game as mean as a person as possible and as much as a loser. This would count as an ad hominem, as instead of making a compelling argument like actually talking about the game, she'd rather just attack the developer herself. And also about her making this. And also, since this whole video is obviously just made for the sole purpose to get other people on her side, who are using terms like shock jock and other stuff, would be strawmanning it too, as she would rather love to oversimplify the entire situation, because the Coffin of Andy and Leyley is enough of a hot topic already, so might as well just capitalize off of it.
out, it turns out it was all just a dream had by this girl who looks like, you know those amalgamations of Democratic and Republican senators, where the faces of every rep was compiled together into one deeply uncanny hybrid? Well, actually looks like that, but for every quirky teenager who is not like other girls.
I mean, yeah, you're kinda right.
Asleep in the shared bedroom and sharing a bedroom. At that age? What's wrong with these two? Actually, no, I take it back. Don't ask Andrew.
Yes, those are all books about incest. Jeez, these jokes are so on the nose.
Now let's take a guess as to what Ashley's problem is. Is it A, antisocial personality disorder, B, hunger-induced delirium, or C, she's a goth girl in a game made by a weeb?
The answer would obviously be C, according to her video, but also knowing this video, she never answers this question if you're curious about it.
Back to how they got locked in the apartment in the first place. Turns out there was some tainted water and the entire city was put under quarantine while their parents left to go stay at a hotel. But it turns out the workers watching them aren't actually bringing them food, but their mother doesn't believe Ashley when she says that. And she stammers out an apology and a goodbye. Oh gee, I wonder why this girl is so messed up.
Yeah, this is basically the entire video from now on, just like Leyley Orchard recapping the plot of Coffin of Andy and Leyley, and we're spliced with her wink wink nudge nudge snarky remarks. Yeah, this is so repetitive.
Ashley spends the next morning cleaning up the laundry when Andrew wakes up and complains that it's a waste of energy. You're a waste of energy! Ashley's the brains of this operation, as you can tell. Eventually, she faints from exhaustion and wakes up with her head in Andrew's lap as they watch the news about how supply shortages are being taken care of while everyone is in quarantine, and that anyone worried about their loved ones who tries to help will be immediately shot. Man, you just know the creator of this had some opinions about mask mandates and consanguinity.
That was a COVID-19 joke and another incest joke.
Someone gets hauled away in an ambulance and Ashley wonders if they bring them food if she got pregnant. How would you even get pregnant in here? Well, we do have that one charming fellow next door. Over my dead body!
Oh my goodness, you are just as unoriginal as you say this game it is. Get it? Incest. The joke is incest. This game has incest. I get it, okay? If you don't have anything funny to say, don't say anything. Apparently this chick has schizophrenia because she can't go 10 seconds without profusely stereotyping the audience that she thinks this game appeals to and the game developer that she thinks made this game.
People suggest that Ashley has antisocial personality disorder, but the truth is you're not allowed to diagnose children that young with a personality disorder in the first place. Frankly, personality disorders are so stigmatized, the idea you can armchair diagnose a fictional character with one is reckless. I've seen people armchair diagnose YouTubers with personality disorders, which is so unethical that some people have been sued for defamation over it.
Okay, good point. I've seen YouTube videos to diagnose Sonic with autism. I'm playing a bit of a dangerous game here. There's no real concrete, professionally backed up government website about how armchairing diagnosing a fictional character is necessarily a bad thing. I found 2 articles from popculturereferences.com and medium.com, but turns out that Medium is not a reliable source. But according to Media Bias Fact Check, popculture.com was rated as least biased. So according to Pop Culture References, here's this paragraph right here. I'm not going to read it for you, just read it yourself. So the claim you made that you can't diagnose children that young is actually correct, since psychologists in real life can't diagnose super young children as they don't have a well-formed enough brain. But what you just said about other people armchair diagnosing a fictional character with a personality disorder is spoken from the context of a flashback in a story where the characters are mainly in their 20s. I couldn't find a definition for armchair diagnosing, but I could find one for armchair theorizing, which fits in the same category. So from like the little research I did, armchairing a fictional character with a diagnosis is sort of in a gray area. Okay, so where am I going with this? Let's play that clip again, but slower.
People suggest that Ashley has antisocial personality disorder, but the truth is you're not allowed to diagnose children that young with a personality disorder in the first place. Frankly, personality disorders are so stigmatized, the idea you can armchair diagnose a fictional character with one is reckless. I've seen people armchair diagnose YouTubers with personality disorders, which is so unethical that some people have been sued for defamation over it.
I've read in a Reddit forum from Coffin of Andy and Leyley about the personality disorders, and people also suggest other personality disorders like ASPD and NPD and BPD and PTSD and BPD and even DID. And you said that people suggest that Ashley has antisocial personality disorder. Keyword suggest. This is not armchair theory. It is clearly fans coming up with their own headcanons about mental disorders, I guess. Armchairing fictional characters with personality disorders or mental disorders or disorders in general isn't necessarily illegal, but you bringing up a serious example of armchair theorizing is used clearly as a way to put whatever people has a counter argument against you into submission, being scared into looking like an awful and evil person whenever they disagree with you. People on cancel culture Twitter use this tactic all the time, and I am sick of it.
Before Ashley turns on the waterworks to get Andrew to help her kill her friend. And this scene is interesting in the way it primes you to avoid looking any deeper into Ashley's character. She turns on the waterworks quite quickly in order to get what she wants, playing up her own loneliness and then immediately giving up the ghost when she wins. Anytime Ashley shows any genuine emotion other than sadism, it's usually just more manipulation. It's like the author's deliberately priming you to avoid seeing any depth to Ashley's character. She wakes up in the middle of the night with Andrew in turmoil over the fact that they ate human flesh and being completely disgusted at how casual Ashley is about all of it. Andrew is torn up about tearing up a body and how grisly it was, but Ashley's acting like they just went down the road for nutmeg and cocoa powder. I love you, Andy. Shove that Andy junk up your ass. My god, I don't love you that much.
Oh, that's a horrible lie.
The next morning, Ashley finds Andrew looking up how to summon demons, thinking the best way to get out of this tomb of an apartment is to dabble in the dark powers of the underworld. As you do. As they're setting up the ritual, the warden comes by worried about the quiet. They hurry to clean up the mess, but the warden finds Ashley hiding in the closet, and so Andrew kills him. Hey, Paul! And we get probably the first real emotion from Ashley in the entire game. Andrew wants Ashley to keep quiet about everything once they escape, but Ashley reacts extremely violently to the idea that Andrew would tell her to do anything. And here's the thing, despite all the material of this game, I've remained largely unfazed. But there is actually one element to play here that truly disgusts me, and it's more about the fact that the whole thing is played for a joke.
Who actually finds this entertaining? Like, not just watching this for the sole purpose to be validated, or like, to watch the Coffin of Andy and Leyley getting dunked on by another YouTuber. Do you know what that image I just showed you was from? Well, unfortunately I had to use Google's AI Gemini overview. Apparently it was from some Instagram artist called LNR Comics, and that was for a web series that Lily Orchard used to be a part of called Lily's Pokey Madhouse. Oh, and I'm supposed to take you seriously, apparently. Why did you show that in your own video?
Work out what they're going to do, and once again the dynamic is stuck between Andrew, who is actually taking the serious situation seriously, and Ashley, who keeps making duck faces for the audience to make it very clear she's not like other girls. Like someone got a Starry and a Nira to reproduce to create the world's most boring woman.
Those are both Baldur's Gate characters, by the way. Wow, what a way to prove how much of a chud you are.
Outside to wait for the killer because Ashley's flabbergasted at the audacity of this man. And what did I do to deserve to get murdered in my sleep for anyway?
Let's see how many logical fallacies you've committed in this video so far. Yeah, you pretty much get the point. I'm starting to sound like a broken record here.
Lucky they get because they tie up their parents and rob them before leaving Ashley alone to prepare the ritual. During this, their mother claims that she tried really hard with Ashley and that she's a saint of a mother.
Oh, that's a horrible lie.
After sorting out the draw limit on the card, Ashley leaves to go finish robbing them blind, and their mother tries to convince Andrew that Ashley is the only real problem by having a pity party for herself, like if Tim Burton made riding in cars with boys.
When does this job ever end?
You call it a job?
What do you think it is, a calling?
I wonder why else she made this video.
Is just ridiculous, both for extreme cruelty and theatricality. This is the main character of the game, and there is less to her than a Saturday morning cartoon villain. I'm the first one to say villains don't need to be complicated, but villain protagonists kinda do. You'll learn everything about her by the end of the first flashback, and then you just have to keep watching her waffle around until the last 20 minutes. Ironically, playing this game made me think more about a film called God Bless America, where two people go on a rampage because they think society is degenerated, but all they really do is kill people who are being kinda rude or fishing for attention. Sure, you get the catharsis of watching not Glenn Beck get shot. Fuck, remember when he was relevant? And while the film does try to give the catharsis of just shooting every asshole in your path, it also shows that ultimately you can't kill them all and society will just step over your body and carry it as it was before. It doesn't end cathartically, because if you're the kind of person who thought American Idol was the symbol of the end times, the whole film is about how you're a fucking nutcase. Replace American Idol with TikTok and suddenly Frank feels like guys my age going on a rampage and killing some teenagers for saying unalive, which I swear some Tumblr users are one censored Q slur away from doing. This film is like the honest version of whatever the fuck Joker was trying to be. The unhinged guy going on a rampage because of society is actually just some portly dude who got fired from his office job for creeping on one of the women. The start of the movie, he literally fantasizes about shooting a crying baby in the face with a shotgun. His first actual murder is a rich girl whose only crime is being a jerk. Hey, you in the Joker t-shirt who's currently scribbling names in your Death Note branded notebook? This is you. This is what we think of you. What makes this movie work is that it's decidedly unsexy. The only person who thinks Frank is cool is the actual teenager who thinks they're so edgy and knows everything. It's a film that goes against the common sentiment that we all have violent urges. It's common for people to say, hey, you know, we've all wanted to kill the guy who cut us off in traffic, but the uncomfortable reality is, no, we don't. We don't all want to kill all the rude people we meet in our lives, you self-absorbed fuck. We don't all have violent urges toward a baby crying on a plane. And your violent thoughts aren't even violent. They're a melodramatic, fantastical expression of how much you absolutely despise being even slightly inconvenienced, because you're such a fucking self-absorbed drama queen that the slightest obstacle makes your imagination go into overdrive.
Remember that whole slippery soap fallacy that I mentioned? Yeah, by the end of this video it gets very egregious. What frustrates me so much about this clip is that the movie that she just showed, God Bless America, she could have used that as an actually good example for, like, of shock content or whatever point she's trying to prove here with her pretentious buzzwords that she uses to try to sound smarter than she actually is. But the problem is that she's way too busy arguing with her imaginary straw man that she even forgets what her own video is about. This video is called The Coffin of Andy and Leyley and lazy shock content, right? Yet she doesn't bother going into deep enough detail to explain what that is, or what lazy shock content or not lazy shock content even means, since she wastes so much time being like, okay, see that, the fat guy in God Bless America, this is what we think of you. Okay, you want to play that game? Read this paragraph on Wikipedia I just found about God Bless America, discussing and summarizing the plot. Why is God Bless America better than The Coffin of Andy and Leyley, even though they both feature very dark subject matters and could have easily been written off as cheap and lazy shock value? She never explains. Oh, but it's different because Coffin of Andy and Leyley stars a goth girl and an e-boy, and this is the ending of the game.
Coffin of Andy and Leyley starts at that point, with Ashley jumping right to sociopathic cruelty the moment someone gets between her and her brother, but doesn't go anywhere with it. It reaches the point where a thesis has to be made, and then it just doesn't. Is it any surprise some people think depiction is endorsement when this is your depiction? Once you reach the end, there's no point to be had. It's just, what are you doing step bro with fewer steps? We reach the end where it turns out that in the future they're likely going to fuck, and the game goes, ta-da! And I'm like, what are you ta-daing for? You didn't do anything. Oh, but isn't that shocking and disturbing?
I can smell the true croquet from a mile away. You see, fart sniffers like these people would use this kind of tactic to try to counteract you. Like, oh, you're accusing me of, like, using logical fallacies, but you're using logical fallacies yourself, as if you're holier than thou. I'm supposed to treat you like a god. Yes, I know this video isn't perfect. I'm probably guilty of using logical fallacies in this video as well. I'm not perfect. Just because I don't say it doesn't mean I don't think it. Just because I'm not saying it explicitly to you doesn't mean you're always correct. And now I am slowly turning into Lily Orchard just by making this video.
Truth is that this isn't a dark story that covers dark themes. It looks like one, it's wearing the skin of one, but that doesn't make it one. Dark stories have something to say about their material, and that's the problem with these shock games and why they're always flashes in the pan.
The thing I hear from most other Coffin of Andy and Leyley fans is that the game itself doesn't necessarily endorse incest. It's just that people have a problem that the game has incest themes in it. Lily Orchard doesn't even, mention this at all. She's just chalking it up to her arbitrary writing standards, I guess. Even when she gets to the ending, which was famously the most controversial part about this game, she doesn't say anything about how the game handles the topic. She's just like, oh, that's not surprising at all. Just some cheap shock value. I'm not scared at all.
It can't shock because it has nothing to say. It doesn't use incest for artistic reasons, it simply revels in it. But at the same time, it's too afraid of outcry to go anywhere. At time of writing, the third episode is still not released, and I think that was a deliberate choice. The whole story has an air of, just kidding, haha, unless. The vision at the end is something the player can avoid if they want to, and it always avoids going too far in the present day, as if testing the waters to see how people will react. Strip away the aesthetic and taboo and the fact that 90% of the appeal is in going, oh my god, I can't believe they made a game like this. And what you're left with is a rather bland and dull story about someone being systematically abused by their gleefully violent and terminally obsessed younger sister. And you know what? I could have told you that kind of story for free.
Okay, well, let's try and check out your literary masterpiece, that is Lily's Pokey Madhouse. Okay, so TV tropes for Lily's Pokey Madhouse. Alright, TV tropes for The Coffin of Andy and Leyley. Oh, wow, that's a lot of tropes. I know she said in a sarcastic tone, obviously her Tumblr fanfic and webcomic didn't have, a good writing, but I don't want to actually speak on the behalf of the writing quality of The Coffin of Andy and Leyley, because that's not what this video is about, okay? This is about her video on The Coffin of Andy and Leyley.
This game doesn't do anything with it. It's just refuge and audacity. But truth be told, if you asked me if I thought every person who liked this game had an incest fetish, I'd probably say no. It's common in material that covers fucked up taboo relationships to assume that the taboo is the only selling point, and the people who liked it clearly liked it for that reason and that reason alone. And while those people certainly are here, I honestly think it's the aesthetics that draw more people in. If you change literally everything out about the story, the genre, the characters, the theme, the tone, the aesthetics, made it about a loving yet fucked up relationship with two completely different looking characters, I don't think it would have the same audience. Getting to see a skinny goth girl cut people up and eat them probably had way more of an impact in why people will buy this game over its supposedly taboo material. If the main characters were just a Tumblr sexy man and Tim Burton's shadow art, it wouldn't have had as big of an audience as it does. And indeed, that's just as base and boring as those who are in this to sing Sweet Home Alabama all summer long.
And now I have finally made it. Her conclusion to this video.
The only thing about this that comes close to making me angry is thinking about how for years we've had to deal with people with just the most boring tastes in the world, acting like they're some brave, bold counterculture pushing against puritanical American values. The people who romanticize abusive relationships, the women who fawn over serial killers like rockstar groupies, the men who do nothing but watch anime about owning a little sister figure like a pet. The sad, depressing, bleak reality is that they think they're an outsider, but they aren't. Disney spent millions of dollars redirecting their biggest media acquisition to appeal to these guys.
What media acquisition is supposed to be like a Disney XD? Like, send me a screenshot, literally anything. Show me what you're talking about. Am I supposed to take your word for this? You edited this entire video, so like, what?
Netflix has made 2 bland dramas to appeal to these guys, and half the anime industry is being held afloat entirely by these guys.
What bland Netflix dramas? 365 Days? What anime? Kill la Kill? What are you talking about? I am genuinely curious. Like, this is serious.
Is that the audience for this stuff doesn't care about quality. They don't like dark storytelling, and they don't like uncomfortable material. They just have a fetish, and as long as the work has the right tags, they'll gobble it up. Well, truth be told, if you asked me if I thought every person who liked this game had an incest fetish, I'd probably say no. It's common in material that covers fucked up taboo relationships to assume that the taboo is the only selling point, and the people who liked it clearly liked it for that reason, and that reason alone. And
You literally just contradicted yourself right there. Is she fence-sitting now? Like, she's like leaning back and forth, and she's can't commit to both. She's trying to stay on the safe side.
we're in a time where disgusting and simultaneously boring people are broadcasting themselves proudly as such. More and more we're seeing genres of literature be played by what is essentially bad AO3 fics that manage to get published entirely off the backs of an audience who will totally buy a 200,000 word story romanticizing abuse, incest, cannibalism, or all 3. It is never—
What stories romanticizing cannibalism, abuse, or incest, or all of it the above? This is actually the slippery slope fallacy we're seeing in action.
been an easier time to become a published author, or a game developer for that matter. The Coffin of Andy and Leyley is the video game equivalent of an Ali Hazelwood novel. It's the most bare bones, hastily slapped together wallpaper paste that succeeds off the backs of people with an unusual fetish or bad aesthetic taste, trying to stick it to the antes in the most mundane vanilla soccer mom kind of way. Because that's always been the problem with Let's Watch Them Get Worse storytelling. Everything is still blunted in order to continue being a consumer product. Like the Dahmer series before it, it's made for thirsty 21-year-olds with something to prove, and therefore can't be too extreme with the material. So it plays everything very coy and very sarcastically, and that means it has much less ability to make you uncomfortable.
You know the MPAA exists, right? You know, movies can't play into, like, darker themes way too much or else they will be rated X. And in my opinion, if this game was apparently so bad that it got you so riled up and hundreds of other people riled up about this game calling it problematic, then it won its purpose as being shock value. It won at having you talk about it this much, to this degree.
You get to the vision where it turns out they fucked and go, oh, what a relief, because they finally stopped dancing around it for 4 hours. The thing about dark content and why shock jocks like Nemley are flashes in the pan at most is that dark and taboo material is only unnerving and effective when it's earnest. When you simultaneously want the people involved to be happy, but also know this is probably the worst way for them to do it. That's part of what being uncomfortable means. It's why this subject only works in tragedy, because you can't wink wink nudge nudge your way through tragedy. This used to be—
So you said that the topic of incest in fiction only works in tragedy. Well, name one example of that, because I don't know what you're talking about.
something authors understood, but we're in darkest timeline 2023, where literature is overflowing with AO3-inspired bad amateur porn for every kink under the sun to give every 20-year-old that sweet, sweet taboo fix, but at a premium this time.
I want to say this, I guarantee you, if the Coffin of Auntie and Leyley was made 10 years ago, she would be making this a video still. And to me, at least, when you brought up the example of the ending of God Bless America, I never watched that movie, but I did see the ending of it, and honestly, you sound more like the main character at the end of that movie than you'd think, you know? Because just like the character at the end of the movie, you know, you're so deep and consumed in your delusions that you fail to see the reality. You sound like an idiot. Oh yeah, AO3 fanfics are ruining mainstream media. Yeah, that makes sense.
Do you remember how animation fandom got really obsessed with dark, mature animation intended to show the normies that animation could be a serious art form? Yet everything they championed as such were PG-rated children's media about being yourself. How they would take clips of Katara rinsing out her hair and going, "This is a kid's show?" Thereby moving the goalposts of acceptable material back several notches so they could delude themselves into thinking children's media was actually super mature and for grown-ups. The thing about those guys is that they didn't actually want mature animation. They wanted Toonami with more blood. If you made the animation equivalent to the Shawshank Redemption, they would have turned their nose up at it for not being anime enough. Their stated interests in what they actually wanted were fundamentally opposed to one another. They had redefined a mature animation to mean Naruto and demanded the industry give them that.
I mean, children's media has always included darker themes, you know. Fiction in general has always included darker themes. It's like very common, you know. But you're showing, anyways, you're showing the clips of the Owl House mostly, and you're complaining that people were trying to herald like the Owl House as like a serious show for adults. It is a really good show. It can even be like enjoyed for adults, but But those mouth-breathing weeaboos somehow had a loud enough voice to dictate the entire animation industry to cater to them. What?
And most of the people who are after the nasty stuff have done the same thing. They demand the most filthy, profane art imaginable, but what they produce as an example is just a Quentin Tarantino film with extra steps. I'm reminded of the way fans of the Dahmer series openly bragged about how they watched it while eating and wished they'd had more gore. I realize I sound like those guys in my critique of this game, but what sticks out to me is that it fundamentally missed the point of why people were upset. It's that the actual, real victims of Jeffrey Dahmer, the mutilations of their bodies, the way law enforcement let it happen, and the way Dahmer continues to be lionized by groupies to this day, was all made into an exploitative TV show for true crime fans to salivate over. Not that it was too gory. Indeed, there was something pretty fucked up about making a miniseries out of a serial killer instead of, like, you know, a documentary. And this
Now, she actually did have a good point here about exploitive Netflix crime dramas being made for true crime junkies, but then she ruins it by saying,
performance of people bragging about how it didn't faze them was especially disrespectful. This wasn't the time to tell everyone what a big boy you are watching the slasher movie without being queasy. If anything, you were missing the point so hard you impaled yourself on a rock. Especially this bitch. When everyone is having a problem finishing the Jeffrey Dahmer series, but you finished it and wished it had more gore in it, that's a real roundabout way to say you wish you got to see more black men get carved up like a Sunday roast.
because this just proved to me that after even almost 36 minutes of the video, you are still bitching and complaining about those TikToks. Those 8 specific TikToks. Do you have no other examples? Like, they were like Jeffrey Dahmer, like, edits. There were, like, TikTok edits of, like, Jeffrey Dahmer from the show. There are, like, hundreds of thousands of them when that show was new. And those are the only 8 examples you could find. Come on, they were as common as dirt at the time.
The truth is, entertainment as a consumer product is designed to downplay gore and violence by, ironically, hyperinflating it. The footage of Bud Dwyer committing suicide on camera will put any idea that you have a strong stomach out of your head. You have no fucking idea how much Hollywood babies you when it comes to violence while pretending to be edgy to stroke your ego. And that's part of why violence is more acceptable in art than sex.
Now, you did actually have a good point going into it of how Hollywood movies desensitizes you to violence, but the thing is that you also ruined this argument because I guess this video is called The Coffin of Andy and Leyley and Why You Hate Scene Girls. So now you are saying that even major Hollywood blockbuster movies are catering to AO3 fanfic writers, as if, like, they're the only people that exist. And that is contributing to the fact of why violence in media is more acceptable than sex to you! This is supposed to be a video about the Coffin of Andy and Leyley, and this is supposed to be a conclusion to that video, you know, the game that was controversial for its incest ending.
And all of this I am very badass shit was just a bunch of sad idiots posturing to show they have a stronger stomach than the people who thought this was gross. Because that's always been the thing about this new brand of Twitter edgelord. The Puritans, or the wokestools, or the antis they're always complaining about live in their heads completely rent-free. They can't do anything without turning to those guys and going, sorry you're too sensitive, sorry I'm too hardcore for you. It bothers them so fucking much that other people give them funny looks. They have oriented their entire media diet and identity around their obsession with imaginary Puritans. The number of times I've seen these people pretend to be survivors of the thing they're fetishizing has reached a point I don't even get disgusted by it anymore, I just fucking laugh. This is the only reason Puritan is back in the popular lexicon at all. And not just by these clowns. When talking about even important things like the oppression of LGBT people, or fake internet arguments like kink and pride, people keep calling skittish or prudish attitudes towards sex puritanical or purity culture. Why? Because calling it Catholic or just prudish isn't dramatic enough.
Okay, you pretty much just repeated what you just said at the start of the video, but with more detail.
That's just where we're at now. Outrage isn't what it used to be. Nobody writes letters to the editor or goes into the street yelling, badness, sick filth. They just snark at you on Twitter. And so people who are delicate and can't handle any public backlash at all will just exaggerate like the melodramatic little bitches they are. Even the political right doesn't have outrage like they used to. They're all trashing Walmart because Bud Light put a rainbow on a beer can or whatever the fuck it was all supposed to be about. I've said this about a lot of things over the years, but this refusal to move past the mental age of 14 is what's really bringing down art. This whole performance has for so long smacked too much of someone loudly and proudly screaming for their mom to get out of their room.
You are the exact kind of people that you are talking about. I swear, this video might as well have been called The Coffin of Andy and Leyley and Why I Hate Scene Girls. Like, this video's argument would fare better, you know, in 2014 cringe culture era, but it's not 2014 anymore. Get with the times. So yeah, in conclusion, this video sucks. It was obviously made for the sole purpose to hop on the Coffin of Andy and Leyley bandwagon, since it was so controversial at the time. This video is riddled with logical fallacies, appeals to emotion rather than actual points and discussions being made. This entire video feels like she didn't want to make a Coffin of Andy and Leyley video. She just wanted to make the video solely to take the piss out of his scene girls and the alt-right conservatives on Twitter and Jeffrey Dahmer stans and that stuff. She tries using like these big words and this high production and this staff to try to make herself sound more professional than she actually is, just because she isn't 17 years old like me. First 5 minutes, her complaint about the so-called devaluing of shock content, whatever the fuck that means. 20 minutes of the video recapping the plot of Coffin of Andy and Leyley and were spliced with her lame jokes. Last 5 minutes of the video were basically like a more evolved version of the beginning of the video, but now it's just this giant, massive, slippery slope the size of Mount Everest, saying that, oh yeah, like, alt-right conservatives and, like, you know, what else, like, teenage drama queens are ruining fiction because the big Hollywood elites are appealing to them. That's a conspiracy theory and a half. And she had so many good points, but she was too busy about her clear motive, which was taking the piss out of Twitter mobs or something. Everyone nowadays, and by the time of this video's release, were so concerned about the alt-right. Like, what is the alt-right doing? Look at what's happening, you know, Trump's president. But Lily Orchard here is a primary example of the alt-left. And yes, both sides can be just as horrible.
My life's like a video game, trying hard to beat the stage. All the while I'm still collecting coins. Trying to something, I don't remember lyrics, please.